Now, the panelists that we have here today were, this morning, they were handpicked. Don't think we just got the book and got a group of panelists. They were handpicked, and they were handpicked because of the critical role that they have played during the past 2.5 years, maybe 3 for some, in terms of their work on remediation, retention, and graduation rates. And specifically, they will be talking about remediation because you heard the message this morning from Dr. Broom, you heard from Chancellor Davis, and you know what we must do. So I think that we could not have a better selection of individuals to share with us today regarding what the state expects, because at the end of the day, the accountability issues are the ones that we are charged with. And if we do not meet those expectations regarding accountability, then it impacts the functioning of this institution. And we also need to be mindful of our mission, because our mission states out, and you heard the Chancellor sum it up very well this morning when he said the legislators charged us with serving those individuals from certain populations. And specifically, the legislation said that this university, the college that was established at the time, was served for the well-being of poor classes. Now, those are still our students today. The economy that we know right now is providing more of those kinds of students that we must serve here at this university. So what we must do is what Dr. Broom shared with us. We must gear up to do that. And again, I say that we're so happy to have the panelists with us this morning, and I would like to introduce them for just very briefly. I won't try to go into all of the kinds of things that I would like to say about them, but I got to know them very well. I already knew one, but I got to know the others during the past session and working on some of the issues. So the first panelist to my right, to your left, is, should be to your right as well, Ms. Donna Hutchison, who is from Bella Vista, Arkansas, and she was first elected to the House of Representatives in 2007. And she serves on the Education Committee, State Agencies and Governmental Affairs, Joint Budget, and I'm sure there are some others. The second person that I would like to introduce at the end of the table is Representative Johnny Roebuck, who is a retired educator. I believe she was the Dean of Graduate Programs at Henderson State University. Her committee assignments consist of education, where she served as the Vice Chair of the Education Committee. She served on State Agencies and Governmental Affairs, the Joint Committee on Public Retirement and Social Security Programs, and also on Legislative Council. And the third person is Tim Summers. I told him that it was just last night, Chancellor Davis, that I knew that his name was short, but we call him Tim Summers, and we're glad to have you here on the campus today. From District 99, and he comes from Bentonville, Arkansas, and he was elected in 2009. He serves on the Education Committee, Aging Children and Youth, Legislative and Military Affairs, Joint Committee on Public Retirement and Social Security Programs, and co-chairs Legislative Budget, Joint Audit Committee. Thank you. Now, in terms of the university's mission and vision, I said a little bit about the mission, and you heard that presented this morning by our Chancellor, and you also heard Dr. Broom allude to that. But just think for a minute about the vision of the university, the vision that we share here at the university, and that vision sort of embraces all of the kinds of things that we heard about here this morning. And of course, one thing that I would like to point out that is in that vision, and that is that the university support several things in addition to what we heard this morning, and that is that the university has a center of excellence in agriculture and biology, and then it has some centers of emphasis in teacher education, math, and in science, and in minority businesses, and the industrial community. Now, with that said, it tells me, and I'm sure it say to you as well, that we have a charge to go out and serve the community in which our university is located and throughout this state. So, with that said, the university has already, and you're familiar with many of the programs that we have here on the campus to address some of those issues. And one of the opportunities that we had early on, and Chancellor Davis reminded us this morning, or either it was Chancellor Davis or Dr. Broom, said that wherever there's a challenge, there's an opportunity. So we had the opportunity at the university. When I say we, I still mean the university chancellor. So we had the opportunity to present a proposal to the legislative committee regarding how UAPB would respond to some of the things that developed from the report, Access to Success, and I'll say a little bit more about that in just a moment. But what we shared with the joint committee was that the university support a collaborative effort with our public school partners. And you heard the chancellor again mention the meeting that we had with the superintendents, where the superintendents agreed to work with the university to address some of the issues that we know surround remediation, retention, and graduation rate. Actually, it's a win-win situation for all involved. The university, in its Delta Circle for student success, embraces student support service, and these are some of the programs that we already have here on campus. You're familiar with many of these programs. The student support services, we have the STEM Academy, we have the Upward Bound program, the Lions program, and we have the Summer Non-Residential Bridge program. A couple of these programs are in their formative stages, but others are already ongoing. And we know about the success of the STEM program. We know about the success of the Upward Bound program and the student support service in terms of providing the kind of support that the students need when they reach the campus. And not only that, the program will provide mentors, it will provide faculty and staff engagement, parental involvement, business and industry. So it will be bringing to the table all of the stakeholders to impact the future success and the possibility of success for our students. And not only that, it will involve business and industry in the community as well, in addition to the school districts. Now, you might have heard, and some of you already know because it was a great announcement, that the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff was selected to be a part of the Gates grants that was awarded to several universities. I believe it was 9 universities in the state of Arkansas. And I'm so happy that UAPB was one of those institutions, and you should applaud the university and yourselves for that. I think therein lies many opportunities to continue to address some of those issues critical to helping our students get into the mainstream of higher education. And building a culture, and one of the things that we talked about in the Delta Initiative was to build a culture. First, we need to re-emphasize the importance of an education. When many of us came along, we had no choice because our parents believed that through education, doors would be open to us. So we have to go back and address that issue again and build a culture. And one opportunity that we have is to take the advantage of those students transferring from 2-year institutions. We have a 2-year institution right here in the city. Many of those students start out with the expectation that they will transfer to a 4-year institution, but they don't always make it. And there's some data that shows that at least 50% or 80% of the incoming students would like to transfer and continue their education. So our goal is to find out why they're not doing that, and I think we should take the advantage of that to enhance our enrollment and also to meet the needs of those students. Now, the current reality is that Arkansas is 47th in terms of the proportion of its jobs that requires bachelor degrees. It is well known that when industry, and one of the reasons we do not have more industry in Arkansas is because we do not have a population to fill the jobs that they require. However, for those industries and jobs that require a lower level of training and lesser pay, Arkansas ranks 9th. At the other end of the continuum, we rank 47th when it comes to those jobs that require degrees. So I think our challenge is to increase the number of degrees that we offer through our 2-year and through post-secondary training at our institutions. Now, Access to Success was the report that I mentioned that this team worked on along with others over the last several years. And I think at this point, there were several things in that report that they reported that we must do to get to where we need to be regarding some of the things that Dr. Broom talked about this morning and Chancellor Davis. So at this point, I will ask Representative Hutchinson that will come and share with you some of the goals regarding the SREB and some things that we must do in the state of Arkansas.
Well, I get the least popular job. I get to talk about reality. And reality is often not a pretty thing, but it's where we must start. And as you could see, our committee, Access to Success, found out that in Arkansas, only 18% of our population has baccalaureate degrees. And Governor Beebe is very insistent that by 2025, he wants twice as many. From that study, we passed a few bills. It made transferring credits easier from one college to another, or from one community college to a 4-year, and it also made it easier for people who've been out of the pipeline to come back in. This is what we kept before us all the time. It's very basic. The more education a community has, the higher the income level is in that community. As you can see, we're down there toward the bottom. Do you see AR in red? So we've made an effort. Here's where we were in 2002. We went down in 2005. We went down again in 2006. We're starting to move up again, but we're still pretty much in the same neighborhood. We and West Virginia seem to be in a race to the bottom, and we want to pass West Virginia quickly. They just see us sprint by them. We want to start moving toward the upper level of this display. This is 2008, so we are moving slowly. As you can tell, we were at 18%, and the governor wants us to be in 2025, double that. So what can we do now that we know reality? We're not only trying to get more baccalaureates. As you can see, we want certificates of completion. We are keeping track also of what you need to make a good living. I have a master's degree, and I will be honest with you, the pool guy makes more than me. But he knows chemicals, he knows math, he knows ratios, he knows percentage, none of the classes I particularly enjoyed, and he's a very, very hard worker. So I am happy for him, so we're not only pushing just baccalaureates, but we're pushing training for a job. Public awareness. I'm Native American, and I'm sad to say many people in my tribe really don't value a formal education. They feel if you can live off the land, that's all you need. And I'm surprised how many of my people get through high school and have never once had a discussion about even the possibility of going to college. Arkansas is doing better. We do send a large portion of our students to college. Our problem is not that many finish. So close, yet so far. We have students who are just within touching distance of that diploma, and then for some reason they drop out. Family problems, financial. We need to encourage them to go ahead and finish and do everything we can, especially for this group, that they will finish. And so we've had some more bills for that. We need to start having this discussion in junior high and high school. What do they enjoy doing? What are they good at? What can we do even then to help them to be successful when they do decide if they want to go to college? Sometimes just getting students on the campus of a college, visiting a college, sitting through classes, even if they're taking high school credits, being on the college campus will change their mind. It's sad to say that many in Arkansas, the only college facility they ever see is the football stadium. And we need to change that. Let them know there's some other buildings there on this campus. These are the people who are my heroes. They already have lots of problems. They already have lots of responsibilities, but they decide to go back to college. and we need to do to help them be successful. They're the ones who are going to have to overcome the biggest hurdles. This is Arkansas. I talked about reality. Out of 100 students, you could see we'll have 74 high school graduates. That's pretty close to the national average. 64 will enroll in college. After 10 years, only 16 will graduate. I remember when we used to say, how many college graduates do we have after 4 years? Then we started asking after 6 years. Now we're asking after 10 years, and we still only have 16. Like I said, reality isn't always pretty, but I also am convinced that we can change this. We need to start improving preparations. As you can see, the first one says improve teaching techniques of remedial education courses. A university with great professors and great programs will produce great teachers. I have a lot of students that come up to me and they've out of high school and they want to become teachers and they say, where should I go? Who will teach me how to be a great teacher? And they list some schools, and I'm very blunt with them. I tell them almost anybody can teach rich white folks. And I said, if you want to know where there's a great school, look at their remediation program. If they can take a student who's out of high school and who is struggling and who got a diploma that may not be worth much, and they can take that student, the university, put them in a remediation program, and in one semester turn that student into a credit-earning student, I said, that's a school that knows how to teach, and that's the school you should go to. And I think you all can be pleased. The last time I looked, UAPB had 85% of the remediation student successful after one semester of remediation. I don't know what your exit standard is, but it's still impressive that you're able to do that. The next one says we need to make sure that there's a blending of high school and college. Sometimes students, like I said, can take a remediation program or high school program at a college, and it will help. You see that first one? I think this is just a profound statement. They need to learn high school knowledge in high school. How about that? That's just really, you know, a profound statement. I've said this before. Public schools do not exist to give jobs to adults. Public schools exist to teach their students. And if the students aren't learning, then the adults have to work harder. And that's just the bottom line. And we need to emphasize that. We need to start tracking students earlier. So we don't want them to get to the senior year and discover, hey, you have some problems. You're not ready for college. We need to start tracking students earlier so they won't get to their senior year. I don't think we can come to the point that we can say everybody has to take SMART Core. I'm afraid some students might drop out of high school if we do that. But we need to encourage more students to take SMART Core, and therefore they'll be ready for college. This is the reason why we need to diminish remediation. Basically, remediation is costing more and less money is there for our schools. And as you can see, our students aren't ready for high school or for college. And nationally, 1 out of 3 high school graduates need college remediation. But in Arkansas, sadly, over half of our students need remediation. And this is the figure that it almost depresses me if I didn't think we could change it. Almost a quarter of our high school graduates can't read. I don't know what a diploma means from high school if you can get one and you can't read. And then they walk into a campus and they think they're ready for college. You know, I've been talking about reality, and we have reality checks. All these tests we give and everything, that's reality checks. But we have one more reality that will not change. I don't know if you saw Doonesbury in the Sunday paper, but I thought I would read it, just part of it. It looks like there's a dean talking to a chancellor, and the dean says, "Here's a report on what college students are learning today. Almost half the kids tested make no gains after 2 years of college." And the chancellor says, "Well, as long as we give them good grades and a degree and their parents are happy, who cares if they can't reason?" And the dean says, "Employers." You see, we can give empty high school diplomas, we can give useless college baccalaureate degrees, but for some reason, the employers won't enter that fantasy world we've created. They want students who are ready to work, who can handle the job. This is the last reality check that our students will hit, is trying to get a job. And by then, it's almost too late, and they've spent money and time, and they can't get a job because they weren't prepared. Arkansas spends $84 million on remediation. That's teaching high school students what they should have learned already. $5 million is spent on Pine Bluff. As I said, the cost of remediation is going up and up and up, but the money for it is going down and down. We need to set exit exams for remediation courses. It's really sad when a student takes a remediation course at one university, then for some reason he has to transfer, maybe his parents moved or something, and he gets to that university and the university tells him, "Well, we're sorry, but you have to take this remediation course again." You see, our standards for exit is you got to make a 19 on the ACT. That's what got you into remediation. You didn't make a 19. So to get out of remediation, you have to make a 19. So we need to make sure that the exit standards are the same with every university so this won't happen to our students. We can develop alternatives. Let's do some creative thinking outside the box. If you have a student who almost made that 19, let's let him enroll in a math college credit course. He'll take the class Monday, Wednesday, Friday. He can take remediation Tuesday, Thursday. He can do both at the same time. Or if he didn't do well on the test, the ACT test, because of just one math concept, maybe the school year ended and he didn't catch that one, don't make him sit through a whole semester of remediation. Give him a 2-week intense course. Get that student caught up and then say, "You are healed. Go forth and take credit courses." We're back to what I started before. A university with great professors and great programs will turn out great teachers, and those teachers should be found in the remediation department. Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce Tim Summers. You may not know it, but Tim is director of Decision Point, which handles people who really have some great problems in life, and he knows about overcoming problems.
May I have the clicker? Thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to be here. I've not been on your campus before, and I'm impressed. I visited with several. I'm a layperson as far as education, and my goal is quite simple, and that's to provide educational opportunities to the maximum for any student all across our great state, and I pledge that all of us in the legislature will work to make that happen. Thank you. What I'm here to talk about, let me make sure I'm on. The access to financial aid is better than it's ever been. We've got the lottery scholarships now. It's been simplified for the scholarship applications, easy access. The Arkansas Department of Higher Education website is available. It shows you all kinds of information. There's more dollars available than there's ever been for that particular part of it. There's incentives for bachelors in high-need areas. The funding and governance, we're now looking at opportunities for more. Act 1203 of 2011 is geared toward productivity, provides incentive funding to target high-need employment areas. Data is going to become more and more important. Tracking the information you have, your databases, and that's true in what I do, that's true in what we all do. We've got to have good data and good information. Databases are so important. We have all kinds of reports, and believe me, in the legislature, we get so many reports that we can't even attempt to read them all, but usually there's very good summaries for us that tells us what's going on, and we have a lot of information that's provided for us, and the information that we have, getting it back to the students, that's the bottom line. How can we help the students understand more about what they need to do and what they need? The early warning system is a great part of increasing retention, improving student success with expanded student services, and institutions having a retention and graduation plan for the high-risk students. You're going to hear more and more about that in the future. Retention rates for first-time college freshmen, U.S. average 74.7, Arkansas average 67.8, and returning their second year for 2-year colleges. Overall, Arkansas is losing the battle even after 6 years toward graduation. This next slide, I wanted to hurry and get to it so that you'd have a minute to look at. That's the graduation rate for 4-year universities, and of course the University at Fayetteville is at the highest, UAPB 23.9, and that's about midway between the other schools. And I think we would all agree, I heard Dr. Broom talk about 85% graduation rate or retention rate, and I think we would all agree that there's plenty of need and plenty of opportunity to work to try to improve these. It's a must. 4-year graduation, back when I was a kid many years ago, that was what we looked at, and as Representative Hutchison said, now we look at 5 years, 6 years, 10 years. There's more dollars available for school than there's ever been. Of course, school costs more than it ever has, but the opportunities are out here, and the thing I think we've got to improve on as much as anything is the culture that starts at home, that goes to the secondary school levels and continues here at the colleges about students graduating so that they can earn a good living, they can make a difference in their families and their communities. And with that, I'll turn it over to Representative.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be back on the UAPB campus. I always am inspired when I ride around and see your campus and see all the great things that you're doing. So congratulations to beginning another great year. And I'm so glad to be here with my colleagues, because in the legislature, just like here at UAPB, it takes a village. It takes a lot of people to do great work. And so in the legislature, we have 135 members. And I want to tell you that you're here today with a lot of those that, I'm sorry to say, that Representative Hutchison and I are term limited, just like your own representative, Calvin Johnson, was term limited. And you know, Dr. Johnson served as chair of the Education Committee. That's a very prestigious and wonderful position, particularly for Dr. Johnson. And so I want to say publicly, and I've said this to him many, many times, but during the time that he was in the legislature, we really began all this effort. And I commend you, Dr. Johnson, for all that you did. Sorry to say, he was coming into this. What I want to talk about is to take everything that Representative Hutchinson, Representative Summers, and former Representative Johnson said, and to tell you how we can make all this happen. And going back to what Dr. Broom said earlier, it is about improving completion. We do a great job in Arkansas of getting students in college. In fact, if you check the statistics, we are above the national average on the college going rate. So we do a great job of getting them in. We do everything to attract them. They come in, we welcome them. But for some reason, like Representative Hutchinson said, we don't get them out. And so that, to me, is just unconscionable that we give our students this false hope that their college material, that you can come to UAPB, you can come to the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville, you can go to SAU, or in my hometown, Henderson State University. But after a while, you're not going to make it. So you drop out or you stop out. So SREB, the Southern Regional Education Board, and we depend on them a lot for their research, did a study to try to decide what do institutions have that get those students through. What are the things that they are doing so that those of us that cannot get them through can mirror or mimic what those institutions are doing? Well, they found it was only two things. But look at what those two things are. The first is attentive leadership. And goodness, if you don't have that, no one does. Dr. Davis, thank you for all that you do because you are attentive. So many times, to be perfectly honest with you, when you're invited as a legislator to go and you speak at a company or you speak with a group, the CEO, like Dr. Davis, may stand up and introduce you, but guess what happens? They walk as fast as they can to that back door, and they leave you with it. And so we have today an attentive leader. He sat through everything that's going on, and you will continue. I've been here before, Dr. Davis, and you're always attentive. And attentive leaders in this study, here's what attentive leaders do. Attentive leaders quit talking about, great job, how many do you have enrolled? But attentive leaders in colleges and universities that have high completion rates, their leaders ask another question. How many did you get through last year? It's not just about who's sitting in the seat on the 11th day, and Dr. Davis, you know that, and that's what we've done in Arkansas for many, many years. We counted those seats on the 11th day. And something happened miraculously after that 11th day. We'd already counted. We'd already turned it in. And so from the 12th day forward, people aren't asking who's in your class anymore. I taught at a university for 18 years. I was a dean. I was a chair. And so often I heard, when I would go to faculty meetings, I heard professors bragging that on the 12th day, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to give the hardest test you've ever seen. I may have had 76 in my class on the 11th day. I even got a gold star from the president. But wait till they see me on the 12th day. Because in our funding formula, it only mattered who was sitting in the class on the 11th day. Right, Dr. Davis? And so faculty got the message very quickly that if I have a large number sitting there on the 11th day, then really who cares who's sitting there on the 12th and subsequent days? So in Arkansas, just like you heard earlier, in this last session, we changed that. And we're moving to a productivity formula. Now, to be perfectly honest with you, I co-sponsored that with Senator Baker from Conway, and we argued for it to be more than what it is. But right now, we're at a productivity formula. Dr. Davis is working with Interim Director Broadway to try to make that formula a reality, and we've got others on that committee as well. But you're going to see a different, attentive leadership all across this state as presidents and chancellors start walking in your classroom on the 12th day, and the 15th day, and the 20th day, and the last day, because it's going to be tied to the amount of money that they're going to be receiving from the state. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about attentive leadership. I'm talking about making sure that everyone on this campus is talking the same talk, walking the same walk. It's not feel good. And I think you heard Dr. Broom say that, and we all applauded, because that's true. It's not about feeling good, it's about the current reality that Representative Hutchinson and Representative Summers and former Representative Johnson talked about. We've got to know what the current reality is, and sometimes it's not a pretty picture, but we have to say it to ourselves in order to get change to happen. And so we've got to send that message, and we've got to focus on those student successes and that vision. A mission is great, and it is just one sentence. It is a short sentence, and you've got a great mission. I read it and I said, right on, Dr. Davis, you are on target. Now, what's your vision to get you there? And a vision is long and cumbersome and detailed. And so I urge you today, when you leave here and you're in your departmental meetings and you're in your area meetings, to talk about, let's look at the mission. Now, what's our vision? Where do we want to be? If the governor wants us to double degrees in 2025, what's that going to mean to UAPB? And how are you going to do that in every classroom on this campus? What are you going to do to make that a reality? So it's about all of us. Now, you are the key. The faculty is the key. Dr. Davis can go back to his office this afternoon and feel very good about this meeting. Feel very good about the attendance and about your attentiveness to this, about having great people to come in and bring you this current reality and tell you what's going on. But guess what? When the students come, it's all about you. It's about the faculty, and it's also about the staff. And I applaud you, Dr. Davis, because I think you have staff here as well as faculty. And that's so important when we have a meeting to have everyone. Because what SREB found in their study, when they talked to students about why they stopped out, guess what they said? Sometimes it's not the faculty. Sometimes it's the person answering the phone. Sometimes it's the secretary. Sometimes it's the maintenance man out on the grounds that says something. Sometimes they can't find a parking place. That's what they told us at Henderson when we did our survey. Some of our students stopped out because they got tired of looking for a parking place. So after a while, they quit. Now, I would have never thought about that, but that's what the students said. We need to know. You need to know what your students are saying, and you probably have done that, but when students leave you, you need to call them up and ask them, why did you not come back? You might be surprised. Normally, it has nothing to do with the content. It has nothing to do with the curriculum. It's something else. We had also at Henderson State University a huge number that said we didn't have a child care facility. I cannot come to school unless I have child care. And so we started a child care there on our campus. And so you have to ask the students, because you are the ones that meet them every day. You know how to motivate them. You understand them. You're not afraid to try new things. Representative Hutchinson talked about this new strategy that you might have for remedial classes. We call it blended, where you actually go ahead and enroll them in a credit-bearing class, and they get their remediation in a lab, maybe 2 days a week. And so you're trying new things. And so the legislature has said to you, everybody's not going to do the same thing. It's not a cookie-cutter approach. This attentive leadership means that you've got a leader that's looking for answers. But he's not going to give you the answers. He's going to give you the problem. And he's going to say to you, you solve it. That's why I hired you, because you're smart. I'm the leader, but you're going to have to help me, and not be afraid to do that. Attentive leaders, we found in the research, appreciate the difference in culture and climate. And I want to say a minute about that, because I drove around, I came to your campus, and you have an absolute gorgeous climate. Because you see, climate is made up of things. We can buy it. We can hire landscapers. We can clean up our buildings. We can make things look pretty. And so you've spent the summer, I'm sure, getting ready for this beginning in the fall, and you've been busy, and all of you have been here as well. And so there's nothing wrong with your climate. You may need a little bit more money to make it even better, but overall you have a gorgeous campus, and that is climate. But what we found when SREB did this study is that students like a nice climate, but what they really like is a nurturing culture. So you can buy the climate, but let me tell you folks, you cannot buy the culture. No one can pay you to be in a good mood. You might try that, Dr. Davis. I don't know. But, you know, someone told me 40, I guess it's been 45 years ago now that I taught my first class, and someone said, teachers can never be in a bad mood. You always have to be in a good mood, no matter what. You cannot take your problems to work. Leave them in the car. When you get out of the car, walk in. Students told in this research study that sometimes that's not the way it is. And so they want a culture that is nurturing. Now, they want to tell you all about their problems, but they don't want to hear about yours. And that's what the students told us in this study. And so it's very important for you to have both, culture and climate. In a positive culture where students stay, you target programs and services, student support services. Raise your hand today if you're in student support services in some way. Maybe you're a faculty advisor, that's student support. Raise your hand if you're in student support. Come on, come on, everybody. Everybody raise your hand, please, everybody. Everyone in this room, from Dr. Davis all the way down to the gentlemen and the ladies out on the mowers, we're all in student support. Doesn't matter who we are. So put that on your forehead. I'm in student support services. And so every time you talk to one another, what are you doing today for student support services? Students say that that's not a building I go to, that's not a room I go to, it's everybody that I talk to should be in student support. Having groups that help me to get through that. I rode by and I saw your Ronald McNair house, of where you're doing so much good work with Ronald McNair. And as a dean, I did that as well at Henderson. And your program is exemplary. We tried to model it. And so you've got so many great groups going on your campus. One-stop shopping where students are not being sent from one place to another. One student wrote on the survey and said, I got so tired of trying to find the answer, I just quit. They sent me from one to the other. Don't you hate it when you get on the phone and you have to punch 1 and then you punch 3 and you punch 4 and you punch 6, but you never get the answer because you never talk to a human being? That's what students told us are happening on some of our college campuses. So we're telling college presidents, sometimes from your cell phone or from your office, just call your main number. Just call your main number, Dr. Davis, and see what's going on. You as faculty members need to call your own number and see what happens. You know, what are we doing with students? That is culture. And so it's not simple, but it is simple. It requires students to understand what's going on. Degree audits. Tell me how to get out of here. You told me how to get in, now tell me how to get out. Give me an audit so I can follow it. Give me a map. Make sure that as you're walking around the campus and you're in your classrooms and you're talking to these students, that it's not just Dr. Davis worrying about who's getting through, but all of you are talking to each other about what you're going to do to get students through, to raise that graduation rate. Because if all of us do it together, and we all have the same vision, then we will make it come true. I want to talk about that next to last arrow there, intrusive advising. Just like Dr. Broom said, students that make it said they had advisors that stayed on their backs. I got so tired of that woman. Every time I saw her, she asked about my grades. Every time I got my grades, she wanted me to drop by so she could look at them. That woman acted like my mother. But guess what? I got through. And then we had other students that said nobody cared. I had my grades mailed to myself at my home. I'm over 18, so my parents didn't, even though they were helping pay the bill, they don't get to see my grades unless I let them. That's proper, right? And so nobody really cared. My advisor, oh sure, I had to go by and get my advisor's signature if I wanted to drop a class, add a class. But my advisor never said, hey, I want you to come by. I want us to have an hour together where we sit down and talk about your plan for graduation. But I'm just a freshman. I don't care. The object is to get out. We want to talk about your plan to get out of here. You tell me, what are you doing? How's it going? You have a C here. Why do you have a C? What can I do to help you? And so students that finish had advisors that were intrusive, that got in their business, that asked them intrusive questions. How much time are you spending watching TV versus how much time are you spending studying? That's an intrusive question. And you make the advisee answer it. And so that's what students tell us, the ones that got through said, I had an advisor that got in my business. And I liked it because I got through. So the students have spoken around the SREB states, and they've said that what helps them get through, the difference in those who get through and those who quit, is personal support, getting down to personal, and that making sure that everyone on this campus, from the security guard that helped me park and to the person that's head of this university, Dr. Davis, everyone has the same goal, and it's all about completion, and it's all about personal support. And it's everyone sharing in the vision and the mission, and not just saying, well, that's somebody else's job. I just come here to work. I get my paycheck. I go home. It's everybody is included. Because only through that collaboration and everyone being on the same page can we reach the goal that we set in the task force, which is to reach the SREB average. And then our governor said that's not good enough. I want you to double the number of degrees and certificates by 2025. So he's taken us to the next level. We cannot do that without you. Legislators are policy makers. And then we give you the policy, and then you decide how you're going to do it. It's no cookie cutter approach. UAPB can do something totally different than ASU, and do something totally different than Henderson or Southern Arkansas. You decide what's best for you, because your students are unique, and so you have to have a unique plan. And how do you do that? You do it exactly the way you are today. I mean, we're here to tell you we appreciate you, because we know that working at UAPB, we keep up with you. We know that those of you that chose to come here to work, and the people that Dr. Davis chose to put together in this family, that you do have positive and caring attitudes. That's why you're here. And that you do have great expectations that are inclusive of everyone, every single student that comes to you, you include that. That you're nurturing those students day after day to be the very best that that student can be. And when that student does stop out, they get a phone call, they get a visit. And you have such a personal commitment to excellence. Now, the legislature has a vision because the governor has a vision. But we cannot reach that vision without your help. So if you see things that are going on in the legislature, or you see things around our state, and you think, you know what, I could do a lot of things, but we need a law about this, or we need guidance about that. We want to hear from you, because you are the ones that are out there doing the work. You know, it's real easy for us to go up there in the Capitol and present these laws or bills and then get them through, and then we say, okay, I'm through with that, we did that. But the times have changed. Legislators want to hear from you after we pass the laws to see how it's working. Maybe it's not working so well. I had one that I passed a couple of years ago, Act 971. I'm not real happy with the way that's working. It's not the intent that I had, Dr. Davis. I think you and I have had that discussion. So sometimes legislators want to hear from you, and you say, that was the most stupid thing that you ever did. Because let me tell you how that's really working back on my campus. We want to hear from you. And if it's, hey, I'm not going to get my feelings hurt. I'm going to get my feelings hurt if you don't let me know. If we do something at the legislature and you think that was stupid, it's not working for you, we want to hear from you. We want to hear because we want you to be talking to one another about all the things that we've done, because it can be changed. We want to thank you today, and on behalf of all of our panel, I want to thank you for all that you do. And this is our contact information, but you can get to all of us on the Arkansas Legislative website. And Dr. Johnson, I'm sure you're going to share with them, because, you know, Dr. Johnson just will not go away. He just will not go away. He was a little bit shy about the Access to Success report. He didn't leave it up here. But when I called him, I asked him if he would be our advisor, because we had so much work to do, and Dr. Johnson had just left as chair of education, and he graciously agreed to be our advisor. So he came back, I think, to every meeting that we had, and when we'd get off track, he'd say, wait a minute, y'all are getting way off track here. So I really applaud you for having him for the time that you did, and we're going to keep on working with him because he is a great resource to you. But that's our contact information. We want to hear from you. And again, we thank you for all that you've done. Thank you.
Let us again give a round of applause to our panelists. You know, I'm sure you listened very carefully to what was said. I'm sure some of you might have some questions, and we do have a few minutes that we can entertain questions. So at this time, if you would like to ask a question of one of the legislators, please let it be known by standing, and we will entertain your question. Yes, sir. We have one in the back first, sir. Yeah, you're in the back. Yes, sir.
One of the things that I heard at the beginning of the presentation was had to do with remediation, and in particular, what I wanted to ask about, you said that you don't really feel that there's a need for including SMART Core for all students, and yet 60 to 76% of employers are saying that high school graduates don't have the skills that they need for current employment. And generally speaking, those SMART Core requirements are the kinds of things a student needs regardless of whether it's high school only that they're going to accomplish or whether they're going to go into college, which leads to the question of remediation. Are we really doing remediation here, which implies that the student didn't get the material, or that they didn't learn the material that was presented to them, or are we doing developmental education, in which case the student was never exposed to the material and needs to get it here, which leads then to why we're not looking at integrating the curriculum from preschool through graduate school, putting together K-16 or P20 initiatives so that our students are aligned from the moment they hit the school system and the K-12 system until they come through our door ready to perform at the college level and then go through graduate.
All right. Representative Hutchinson, you want to? And while she's doing that, let us please think about what we want to ask and ask a question, be pretty direct with it, because we don't have a lot of time. So if you just ask the question and then let the panelists respond to that.
All the points you said are worthy points, and we agree with you. That is why our state has entered into the Common Core. It's an agreement with, not imposed by the federal government, but states that have agreed to enter into this. And it tells precisely what each grade level needs to be taught. And it is a much more rigorous schedule than we had before. So the SMART Core is important. Like I said, we don't want to discourage students from attending school. But the Common Core, I hope, will start taking care of some of the things you mentioned, that we will start early and we'll be pushing them with this Common Core. I think State Representative Roebuck can tell us even more.
Yeah, just to follow up, when SMART Core was originally, as you know, implemented, there is an opt-out. Parents can opt their children out. We've had many discussions at the county. There was some of us on one side that wanted to do away with opt-out. So every student, no matter the student situation, would come into SMART Core. But we deal with what we call public education, which means that in the end, the parents have a choice. They can remove their children from public education, put their children in private education, they can homeschool their children. They have a variety of choices with public education. So in the end, we decided that we would leave the opt-out, but we are discouraging as much as we can parents from opting out. But the SMART Core curriculum is only, as Representative Hutchinson said, for our high school. What we're seeing with Common Core is it's going to start at the very beginning of our school and go through. Hawaii, what they've just done, and several of our other states, but Hawaii's kind of leading the charge, is having a stopgap at the 3rd grade. If you're not reading on grade level at 3rd grade, that's it. Texas is following suit. They just announced last week that they are going to do the same thing. Arkansas will look at that. It's the 3rd grade. What we found in the studies with SREB is that the 3rd grade is critical. That's where you're either on grade level or you're not. And we don't do any service by allowing them to move from the 3rd grade if they don't read at grade level. So you're right on target, and I appreciated your preliminary comments as well, because that's the issue that we get a lot. You know, cannot we just legislate? And in public education, sad to say, parents have the last voice, and they can remove their children. So we're trying to be understanding, but also the Common Core will do a lot of what you're saying.
Okay, I think we had another question. Yes, sir.
My question is related to the same topic. United States is the only country in the world that offer high school diploma to students who don't who are not prepared for the college. I think there is no other, I come from a third world country, from Bangladesh, but our students in Bangladesh, they cannot pass high school, they cannot get high school degree unless they know what they're required to do. So I think that is the major core problem, and unless we address that, no other measure will be successful.
I remember reading a study that was done worldwide, and it said that American teenagers have probably one of the poorest education compared to European countries and other countries. But American teenagers have the highest degree of self-affirmation. We feel really good about ourselves. So there's a somewhat disconnect there. But you're right. There really is no excuse with the what is happening in America and what we have. I think we need to realize that every child has worth, every child can learn, and they need to feel good about themselves. But we also need to realize at 18 they're going to enter the real world. And we don't want them to stop feeling good about themselves because that's when they realize they don't have the job skills that they need. So there is a magic act that teachers must do, and I was a teacher. You have to let the child feel good about themselves and encourage them all the time, but they also need to know what reality is. And that's part of the gift of teaching, that you can do both successfully.
Dr. Williams.
Thank you for the opportunity to pose the question, and I wish to address the question to Dr. Roebuck. In your presentation on individual students, culture versus climate, would you mind making comments on developing an early intervention system? You made comments on intrusive advising, which I feel is so very significant and important. But could you make comments on that adjective, early, and system, the now?
Good. Thank you for the question. It's as if we talked and we did not. Thank you. Yes, I think early means that you are looking at these students even before you see them. I mean, you are looking at your roster, but you're also asking the admissions office to send the ACT score or the comparable score to you. So that as a professor or as an instructor, you're getting to know that student before that first day. And so you're starting that, what I call an audit, is being used around the nation, of where you're doing an individualized audit of that student. So you already have the understanding before you ever see that student face to face. You have studied that student. You've looked at those test scores, you've looked at the weaknesses, you've looked at the strengths, and so you know exactly what's going to happen in your classroom with that student and what your outcome is going to be, because you're looking at a pre-test before you ever even meet the student. I think that's what we're talking about intrusive advising and about early intervention. So many times we don't talk to the admissions people. Maybe at UAPB we're different, but at Henderson, unless I ask those admissions people to send me those test results, I didn't have that for my students. And once I started doing that, I really understood that student before I saw the student, and I was able to start outlining and mapping an audit of where that student needed help in my class. And if I was teaching something that would require reading, then I knew exactly where that student was in terms of the reading level and also in writing skills and in all the things that make up a good curriculum. So I think it starts even before we meet the student. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I have heard here that the remedial program, especially here at UAPB, has helped our students to achieve at least 80% success. If this is the case, how is the state government, especially the Department of Higher Education, going to help UAPB in continuing and enhancing this program instead of trying to decrease the intensity of this program? Thank you.
I think I missed the first part of your question. How will the Department of Higher Education help the university do what?
To continue and enhance the program.
Well, I think the first step is, I think you are going to be a part of the Gates grant, and Dr. Johnson talked about that, but that Gates grant, let me tell you what that's going to do. When we actually applied for this grant through the Department of Higher Education, every state applied. And when they were doing the first round of grants, I've been told by some of the readers that there were only 4 states that when the readers got through reading the grant applications and they wrote down on a piece of paper the state that they wanted to get the grant before they ever even discussed it with each other, that Arkansas was the state that they all wrote down. Now why? I'll tell you why. Because we've been working on this, and because of people like Dr. Johnson and his time in the legislature, this was not new to us. So when we said we had a remediation problem or a developmental education problem, some of those states woke up and said, oh, there's a grant out there. Oh, let's see if we have a problem. And you know how that goes. And so they started writing their grant applications. And Arkansas was very clear to those grant readers that we were going to do something. So our Department of Higher Education is going to lead that. And it's my understanding, Dr. Johnson, that what that means to you as one of the 9 institutions, that you're going to be able to experiment with some new strategies for developmental education, and you're all going to get together with those 9 universities are going to be together, and then you're going to be a model for every single institution of higher education around our state, because you're going to try it and then tell the others what worked, and then be able to work with the Department of Higher Education on making it better. I don't know if we've answered your question or not, but we'll be glad to visit with you. I'll give you my card, and we'd love to hear your concerns, because that grant is vital to solving this concern.
And you should also know that the Department of Higher Education has staff that work with individual institutions to develop their programs, to approve their programs, to monitor programs, also to administer scholarships for students. There's just a lot of things that's available at the Department of Higher Education. However, they have their levels of accountability because they have to be accountable to the federal government and to the state and to the governor, just like the universities do. So I think that the support is there. I think the institution have to decide what it would like to do and then then provide that to the Department of Education and ask for support. And I think that you will find that level of support there. At least I think you're going to find lots more in the future than you have in the past. Thank you.
I would also like to say that we don't want to enlarge the remediation program. We want K-12 to do a better job so that the remediation program will get smaller and smaller and the needs will not be as great. And that's why I'm so happy with what Dr. Johnson reported, that the colleges are going to be working with K-12 and that the local schools that feed students into your campus, that we'll be talking to them and let them know we're going to work with you. We'll help you do a better job at K through 12. So there'll always be need for mediation because people are going to drop out, come back, they won't go to college right after graduation. There'll always be need for remediation. But we're hoping with Common Core there will not be as much need for that. So I hope you went enhanced, you didn't mean enlarge.
Dr. Johnson?
We had one hand back there. Then I'll come back to you. Yes, sir.
When can we expect in the lottery scholarships there to be a foreign language requirement, and when will SMART Core as well?
Great questions. And those questions are still being asked at the legislature. You need to come and sit in on some of our meetings and ask that as well. And I encourage any of us to have these discussions with your local legislators, those that represent you day in and day out at the Capitol. I hope you'll do that. Foreign language. That was something that was discussed when we wrote the lottery bill. Sad to say, it is not a part of the curriculum that is required for graduation in Arkansas. It was required, however, for the Academic Challenge Scholarship. And when we adopted that name, sad to say, we did not adopt that foreign language requirement. Some people call it an oversight. I can tell you as one of the people that sat in that room in hundreds and hundreds of hours of writing that bill, it was not an oversight. We battled that, we discussed it over and over, and at the end of the day, those of us that wanted that foreign language to be included, we lost. So it's still being discussed. Representative Randy Stewart, who is from Southwest Arkansas, has an interim study right now. He would love to hear from you. I'll be glad to get you in contact with him. He is studying that right now, of how we put that back into that academic challenge requirement, and that's certainly being discussed. And did you have a second part of that?
Smart core, we can see.
Smart core. We also discussed that as well. And so what we did was we tried, Senator Salmon sponsored separate legislation of trying to diminish the number that were opting out, and what we decided was to do a better job of making sure that parents understand what smart core is, because remember, they're the ones that can opt out their child. The child cannot opt out unless the child is 18. So it's been I think I've been over in the Delta working with some school superintendents over there. As Representative Hutchinson said, Smart Core is going to solve that, because Smart Core will be dissolved into Common Core, and so we'll have no choice. Every student will be required to have the Common Core standards.
All right, we'll take one more question here.
This is kind of directed at Representative Summers, but things always seem to come back to dollars and common sense. But when you said there's more money available now than there ever has been, you're talking about the state level only, aren't you? Because my understanding is that there have been some cutbacks at the federal level. And how does that formula for distributing that money affect open enrollment universities like we are?
Thank you, sir. My comment was based more on opportunities for students to go to school and the different types of scholarship programs, aid, that sort of thing. There's more certainly now than there was years ago. I didn't intend for it to address formulas or things of that nature, if that makes sense.
All right, with that said, I would like to again thank the panel. I'd like to thank you for your participation, and also let me remind you, you heard the invitation from Representative Roebuck to contact them if you have things that you need to know. Every bill related to education will pass through the Education Committee. These individuals will have an opportunity to vote one way or the other. You take the opportunity to communicate with them if there are issues that you have some concern about before the bills are enacted, and then follow up like Representative Roebuck said. Let me share just this, because I like to express my appreciation to people publicly. And several years ago, I first met Representative Hutchinson, and we were not on the same page. We were on different pages. We were not in the same book. But after meeting with her and talking with her and worrying her, we began to talk about issues that we're faced with, dealing with the kinds of student remediation, retention, and those kinds of things. At the end of the day, Representative Hutchinson was a great supporter of the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, and I think you should applaud her for that. But like our chancellor, she has two sides. She said at the end of the legislative meeting where her bill was being discussed, she said, if higher education has not taken any action by the next session, you will hear from me again. So Representative Hutchinson, I'm glad that you witnessed firsthand the fact that UAPB has taken some action, and we will continue to do those kinds of things. And thanks to Tim and to Johnny also for being here. Yes.
I've been here, I think, twice before, and every time I've come, you always give me something to take home. So today is a special gift for you. Your panel has a gift for you at the registration table. It's a little book that I wrote many years ago. Yes, I've got bad hair. I'm sorry. We had big hair, and I loved it. And so I have bought the copyrights to my own book, so now I'm free to give it away. You all have a copy of the book. It's at the registration desk when you leave today. Enjoy and have a great year.
Now I know why I'm against term limits. But certainly, I want to express my sincere appreciation for our representatives for being with us. They have done just what I would hope that they would do, to give us a dose of reality. And you have to know they are our friends. They are our friends, and they are trying to help us do the job that we have been committed to do. And so at this time, just a little token for you to take back home so that you don't forget that you've been here. So I want to give you this. Thank you so much. And one last comment. I want to thank Dr. Johnson. He thinks that he has retired, but it just gives me more freedom to assign him. Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Thank you.